fast. Very, very fast. Very, very fast. Very, very fast.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
All right, then St. Vincent and the Grenadine, 12 minutes on to the hour of 9 o'clock on SVG, and we have Dr. Gerald Thompson with us this morning, as we usual on a Monday morning,
yes,
with his commentary. Good morning to you, Doc.
Thank you very much. It's always really interesting listening to life. I really enjoy that and the commentary that comes through. This morning, I was gonna, as usual, take it a little bit international because, oh gosh, man, we have to so much prepare and be prepared for the international aspect of what's happening with war and, negotiations that's gone bad or not really good intention. And that whole catching of pneumonia as other places sneeze. If you understand, I'm saying it backwards, catching pneumonia where other people sneeze. But you know what? I ain't talking about that at all. And it was only on driving down here, I was listening to yesterday's program with Joel Providence and so forth. Realized Bing had been on. Mm-hmm. And I had made some inquiries last night and this morning about the fire that took place at Boom FM and literally wiped out Boom FM. A fire that started next door, that spread to the building that housed WEFM, the ceiling.
Boom FM.
Boom FM, sorry. The ceiling basically would have collapsed. The floor also were all wooden. Ceiling and floor wooden. And the padding on the walls were apparently adding to the inflammability. Great soundproofing, but it's inflammable. Here, if you look in my background and you see the studio, and this might have come up for some discussion. This stuff here behind me is made of mahogany. Green heart. Green heart.
Actual
that
wood.
Is not that is not flammable, and as a result, the space in between has been engineered to provide that acoustics. So even though you see wood here, it is different. But if you had yellow pine and you had a floor yellow pine and you had padding, nice, pretty padding and so forth, it might look nicer, but it may not be the safest with respect to a fire. But the point is that in the studio of Boom, their microphones, their electronics, their state-of-the-art, disc and so forth, the mixing board, all those other things went. And there was an intervention by Jules Williams, the owner of this station. And I really wanted to commend him and his team. And as I said, I was going to talk more of those details, but realized that it had been discussed yesterday. Boom himself was on in studio, probably sitting down in the same seat I was sitting in. And you could tell how devastating it had been, but that how he was bouncing back. And, they were able to get the server. Jews, they were able to pull out the server, check it, redo it, and get it back together again. I mean, people like Cookie and his son Alex and so forth, the work that they did was remarkable. And in the same way that you have a lot of the electronic equipment in another room and so forth, that may not have been so affected by the fire. I think this is really such a good thing. Now, they apparently have moved that additional server room now down to Camden Park. Apparently, Alex Williams' office, he's given that up so that it could house Boom FM's equipment and so forth. And I had not realized that WEFM really, not WEFM, but WEFM along with Hot FM, along with Star FM and Boom are all essentially connected up at Mount St. Andrews to the same antenna. And this goes well because you would think that there's a host of competition in the rate for audience and who's getting the audience and the ratings and so forth. But you soon realize that people appeal to different demographics and different age groups. The discussion we were having this morning with Life and so forth is a discussion that I think appeals to certain, your Kudjo Masons and so forth. You know, we're tying to that. The other callers were tying to that. Whereas if you are appealing to a much younger group, teenagers, they may go elsewhere and so forth. And so things are divided up. But the important thing I'm trying to say is that in spite of competition, there's that sense of camaraderie. A radio station just dropping out creates a vacuum, a space that, yes, can be filled. But in terms of radio station, you can't really afford to lose your audience. You could lose them permanently. And in terms of they'll go elsewhere, maybe even go overseas, you know. But I wanted to really emphasize the level of collaboration and camaraderie in the electronic world. And just now, we were talking about the lack of technology and so that is available. But within the radio sphere, they have a young man, well, who's a manager there, Mario, who's in Canada. They have the equipment in Alex Williams' office at Camden Park. And they're able to put all the different things together, and that there's music now. Ads are playing. And soon, maybe later this week, they'll be able to get back 135 days to having interviews and so forth again, that Boom is also known for. And that this is really good. And okay, we may not have the technology, facial recognition and so forth, but we are able to put it up. And I remember when I first started in radio doing talking about medical things and so forth, I had to be in studio. I couldn't be remote. And now it's you could be remote. You know, I could be in England and basically do a program. I could be nice and do a program. And Mario, basically of Boom FM, is in Canada and still able to manage and operate things electronically. And I think that things have really come a long way. But the important thing is I really want to commend Jules Williams and his team for helping out an entity in a competitive radio station so that they are still really in the market. And there's no vacuum. There's really no space. And in spite of the loss of the original location, things are really going to be up and running seamlessly, as if they haven't lost a step, so as to speak. And I should put a smile on Bing's face, because I know these are all very tough times. And, you know, I'm glad I'm not talking about the Iran war and all those other things. We can talk about something positive. I'm glad, you know, life, you know, sometimes life, I love this guy, but it depresses me that I'm throwing my hands up, you know, and that we can really get some positive things done and see some positive things being done in the world. I want to use the term, I want to clap for that. All right.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, this is the thing with life, right? But not life, the individual, life, the state, right? The state, right? Where multiple things are happening at the same time, right? So while it is that we have to recognize, and it would be remiss of us to not speak at all about what happened on the weekend in terms of the homicides, we also do have to recognize that in Vinci, that there are positive persons who are taking the lead and taking a role, and who we can. It wouldn't make us all feel like it's a doom and gloom, but there are positive persons here in the country, right? I did listen to the Issue at Hand program yesterday, and I would just like to say commendations to Mr. Providence regarding that yesterday's program in particular. Now, I always like listening to Mr. Providence, truth be told, but I think yesterday's program was heartwarming, and it was interesting listening to Bing, right? Now, normally Bing is up there, quite animated and all of that, but you listen to the tone of his voice, you could hear the dejection.
It was
in
just
his
a different
voice.
side of him.
It was a different side of him, and I think P. John made commentary about it. Said, did he use the word human side? I can't remember. P. John, if I misquote it, it's human side. He said, right, because we don't normally hear that side of Bing, because he's always so animated, right? But as we spoke about, Rajiv and I spoke about it last Friday when we heard of what happened. From a business standpoint, right? I could not possibly. I could probably empathize with him, but I cannot totally feel what he's feeling, because he's the one who's going through it, right? And to hear on yesterday's program, this station, and not just this station, because I don't really want to say this station, this is Jules, right?
Yeah, this is Williams Electronics, yes.
And Jules and Willis and everybody else who's involved. It's always so interesting, because you tend to think that if you are my competitor, right, that I am not going to look out for you.
You're going to stick the knife in and twist
I'm going to stick the knife in, and I'm going to be, Jules could have possibly said, no, this is all your time to try to grab the boom audience, right? Yeah. Now, I mean, the thing of it is that, as you correctly said, persons are going to gravitate to who it is that they want to gravitate to, and persons pay attention to certain topics. And I think on morning radio too, I think persons pick and choose what it is that they want to listen to, or who they want to listen to, sometimes depending on what the topic is, right? There are some persons who don't switch dials. But in the world of business, there are many times when persons get the impression that because you and I are in the same space, that we have to be aggressive, or I have to talk down your business in order for me to get ahead. And I actually liked it. And well, Rajiv and I did make a comment about it, is that even though we are in the same competitive space, I felt it for him in terms of the loss of the equipment. And he said yesterday that the value of it is probably like $1 million, if not more, or if not slightly less, right? $1 million. But additionally, it's the employees where are they going to go this morning, right? They're going to have to probably find ways to maybe either find another way for them to still be at the station, or maybe temporarily employed somewhere else, or whatever the case might be. But it comes down to that dollar value. A business has a dollar value. Me being able to sustain myself as an employee has a dollar value. And I really do have to give commendations to Jules, because, again, as I said, too many times when we think that we're in the same business space, let's say somebody in the same business space as I do. And I always, even in my business, I always say thank you to those who might be in the same space, but who recommend me, right? Because I might have something that might be a little bit different from what they might be doing. And I don't always think that we have to be a society where I have to be the only one, right? Or I have to be recognized as the only one. The way in which I view it sometimes is, once we are all doing good, we are all doing well to good, then there is space for all of us to eat a food, So, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
I don't really need to say more. I think really it just shows really the goodness of her heart, and I think listeners more, and Jules would have also expressed it, that Bing hadn't even known that the work was being done on his station. He was driving, and then he heard the music coming on.
Basically, he didn't even know that what been going on behind his back.
Yeah, and that also speaks to persons who are in your corner, right? Yeah. Because persons could have just left Bing to continue to be depressed, continue to be in a sad state.
Yeah.
But persons were trying to reach out, and there's Jules saying, answer your phone. And I'm sure, as Bing said, he used some choice words, right?
Yeah.
But answer your phone, because he's trying to get him out of this mindset that it's not all doom and gloom. It's going to take time to get back to the level that he was at before in terms of with the station, but they're making steps, right? And just commendations, right? We as a society, we in a society and in a business space, we don't always have to be at each other like that.
It's how do you turn a bad situation into a negative? And I still come back to this. I'm a medical doctor, and I've seen so many circumstances where people who are ill, there's been a throwing up of arms in the air. And then it's not even a miracle. It can be said to be a miracle because I'm sure there's a lot of prayer involved. But today, in terms of technology, new medications, or even using old medications and so forth, we've been able to pull some things back. And we got to celebrate this. I think there's this positive side of life, and we got to retain that sense of hope. There are so many, besides England, there are many places that had high crime, and they've been able to resolve those things in some measure and change attitudes and so forth. And we have to learn this to find out what were the factors there. You can't always transplant everything to our situation today, but there are places that are going through that now, and I think we got to learn in that respect. I ain't throwing no arms up in the air, and the Jules situation. Thanks, Jules. I got my arms down. I ain't throwing it up in the air, and there's a positive experience that we sometimes need to talk about, and we talk a lot about the bad things there, and I love it. So life. Don't get me wrong, life. I ain't telling you to talk about only nice things and so forth. We need to hear those particular things because you're one. You bring out those things in a special way, right? Yeah. But I myself, I'm going to try to be a little bit more positive.
But there are positive things happening around us all the time.
Yes, but to talk about them and to highlight them.
Yeah, but even in your own personal space, I think for us as individuals, if somebody has impacted your day, like somebody giving me really good customer service, you are going to know at that point in time. I'm going to let you know. So you don't have to wait for to necessarily take it to social media or that kind of thing. You don't have to have this whole public recognition. You can do it in your own way, in your own spaces. And as you were talking there about challenges, there's a thing that I heard a quote yesterday that the greatest adventures in life start with challenges, right? So yes, in the case of Boom, they had what they had, right? And then the fire destroyed it. But who knows what they're going to become out of this particular incident, out of this particular situation. So, it's just one of those things that as an individual with your own life is that you are going to go through things because nobody said life going to be smooth sailing. Things are going to happen, but it's how you process and you go through and you overcome. So, yeah. All right.
One of the things too that running a radio station is not cheap, eh?
I know. I just look at the equipment and everything else. Yeah. It's
$1 million worth of equipment.
Mm-hmm. That is it. So yeah, it is. Yeah.
We all feel his pain.
Yeah, we do indeed. So we will see. As I termed it on Friday, it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. So Bing and Boom would become that phoenix, and we see what comes out as a consequence. All right. So, we have a call. Okay, so I see somebody calling. It's okay. All right, so the person who's calling, we would take your call at 9:20 or thereabouts when we open the phone lines for Talk to Us, and it will be an open forum. All right. So with that, we have come to the end of today's commentary, or Doc's commentary, and we are going to take a break. And our next talk segment will be at 9:20.
Nothing else sounds as good as
WEFM.